Hey folks, this is Mike Dolphson from the Microsoft Education team, and we're with you on our next Remote Learning with Microsoft EDU webinar. And today we've got accessibility and remote learning. So thanks for joining. This should be nice. We'll start with the latest news and updates, and then I'm actually going to take over and do some demos of accessibility and some of the tools we have for the inclusive classroom. And then we are lucky to have Rachel Berger, someone who's actually working with me on my team, but also she is an executive director at Decoding Dyslexia and the mother of 3 boys, 2 of which have special learning differences that she's going to talk about. The 3 quick links that we are always going to cover every time: the main Microsoft EDU remote learning site, the Teams Education Quick Start Guide, which is a great guide to use for people who are brand new to Teams and trying to get up and running. And then also make sure that you sign up for the Teams remote learning community. It's over 4,000 strong now, with educators from all over the world, many from the United States, but many from all different parts of the country and world. And we're collaborating. The Microsoft product engineering team is in there to help out, give support, and there are many educators learning tips and tricks from each other, which is great. The 3 updates for today. So every time we do one of these, we have 3 new links or resources to share out. First one, brand new, and I gotta say it's a little bit about my own self, which is I've just started a YouTube channel for quick EDU videos. So I put some of these little quick tips out on Twitter, things like PowerPoint screen recording or how to do Teams meeting options, and they've gotten really popular. And a lot of people asked, hey, can you put these videos in a place where anyone can use them and access them? So I just started a YouTube channel, and I'll start uploading more and more videos there. The link is right here at the top. We also just made all of our previous remote learning webinars. So this is, I think, our 7th or 8th one. I've lost track how many. But we made a YouTube playlist, so you can access any of the past videos. Today's video will go live on YouTube probably tomorrow morning. And so that's one where if you miss something, you can go get caught up the next day. And then also we've got the inclusive classroom webinar itself. I realize I'm missing a slash here. I'll add that in the PowerPoint to fix it. But I led a full hour-long deep dive inclusive classroom webinar a few months ago. And so many of the things I'll be showing a glimpse of today, I go deep into a much longer presentation on inclusion and accessibility using Microsoft's tools. And then also a reminder, we do have our full remote learning webinar schedule posted. We're adding more and more shows all the time. We're actually booked all the way out till April 8th. So go to this link, find the latest updates. We've got little links, iCals for your calendar, so you can add it into your calendar with all the information and links. Go out there, check it out, share it with your friends and neighbors and other educators. And with that, there's a picture of me, because I'm going to be doing the next segment. We normally have other people on the Microsoft product team, but today is accessibility, so I will be talking all about inclusion and accessibility. So here we go. At a high level, Microsoft's mission is to empower every person on the planet to achieve more, and our education mission is empowering every student on the planet to achieve more. And so that is really an inclusive message that goes into everything we do. It's empowering every single student. And just as a background, some statistics, these are from the United States, but I think around the globe, but there's some similar types of statistics. Almost 3/4 of classrooms have 4 or more reading levels. Almost 3/4 of classrooms have special education students built into the mainstream general ed. Over half of classrooms have non-native speakers, or we call them in the US, English language learners. And over 50% of instructional time can be spent by educators working with these diverse and personalized student needs. Could be assistive technology, could be personalization. And so we want to help enable educators to scale out across all of that. Now, this slide here, we're not going to be covering everything, but this shows how Microsoft thinks about all of our capabilities across the entire company for accessibility. And this link here is really good to bookmark, this accessibility sway. We break down every single free capability Microsoft has by category listed here, and all the free software that's built in that you already have access to. Most people I hear from say, gosh, I had no idea these things existed, Mike. And so this is to really help spread awareness there. But today I'm going to be going through the inclusive classroom, and I'm going to be talking about reading, writing, math, and communication tools. And I'm going to be spending less time than I normally do. I'm going to be going through pretty quick because we have limited time, but I want to make sure you get a sense of all these things. And actually this slide here, I usually put towards the end, but I put it up at the beginning because everything I'm going to show right now, plus more, is all available in these free interactive guides for reading, writing, math, communication. So you can click through. It's like you're using the software, but you're not. It walks you through it, and these can be shared broadly. So if you have special ed or tech directors or reading specialists that you want to share these tools with, these are fully public. So take a picture of this, check it out in the deck. This is probably the most useful thing I'm going to show today are these interactive guides that you can do everything I'm about to demo with. And with that, we're just going to get right into reading, and I'm going to show the Immersive Reader briefly. So hopefully many of you have heard about the Immersive Reader. It's built right into free tools like Word, OneNote, Teams, Flipgrid, Forms, many places. Here I am in the free version of Word in the web, and I'm going to go to the View menu and hit Immersive Reader. Oh, and I need to make sure I share my system audio so you can hear this. So you can see we reduce distractions, and we call this focus mode, and I'll hit play.
The study of Earth's landforms is called physical geography.
So we have text to speech and read aloud. I can change the voice speed, faster or slower. I can choose male or female voice. I can choose how the page looks. So I can increase spacing right here. There's research around visual crowding, and for some students, if you increase spacing, that can help with reading speed and comprehension. I can change the background color very easily. So these are tuned for accessibility, and it's very easy to pick a color that works best for you. We can even change a couple of fonts here, and I can make the text much bigger. So I can increase the text size. So think about visual impairments, English language learners, maybe early readers, practicing sight words. So it's really easy to change the way that page looks. Then I'm going to go on to the next set of features up here in the upper right called grammar tools. And I can break words into syllables. So clicking the syllables, it's like the syllable claps where you say syllables and you clap your hands. I just broke all the words into syllables with a single click. I can highlight the nouns, parts of speech here, purple. The verbs are in green, adjectives in red, adverbs in gold. I can even show the labels. So if I can't make out that distinguishing mark because maybe I have challenges with color, and I can also change the color. So maybe in this case, I want nouns to be blue. So it's very personalizable, and that makes it easy for students to do this on their own. They don't need the teacher to hold their hand to do these things. They can do it themselves. Now I'm going to show the last couple of things in the Immersive Reader. I'm going to go to Reading Preferences in the upper right. I'm going to choose Line Focus right here. And so that's like a reading ruler. Now I can focus my eyes. So thinking about ADHD, thinking about dyslexia, or people with cerebral palsy, I can still read it.
It's important for students to know about the physical geography of Earth.
And it automatically scrolls it. I can move with the arrows myself by clicking up and down. And I can choose 3 lines or 5 lines. It's very easy to personalize that. Last couple of things, I can click on a word and get a picture. So this is the picture dictionary.
Earths.
I can play.
Earths.
You can hear it read.
Mountains. Mountains.
And finally, we'll translate. Now I can translate in over 63 languages. And in this case, I'll choose Spanish. And we'll choose it on by word. If I click on the word here,
Earths.
and then
Tierra.
Spanish.
Earths. Tierra.
Switches that read loud voice. And if I want to go back to reading preferences and click on document right here, now it translates the entire document. Let's hear that.
El estudio de las formas terrestres de la Tierra se llama geografía.
And you can see it still has the words broken into syllables. If I want to slow that down, maybe it's too fast for me.
Geografía física. Las formas de tierra.
And if I want to go back to the original up in the top, I click original. So I can flip between original and Spanish. So that is a whirlwind tour of the Immersive Reader. That's just built right into Word in the browser. And it's built into OneNote and Teams, Flipgrid. It's even in Minecraft. And like I said, we have a full interactive demo. I'm not going to go through it, but everything I just showed is in this public interactive demo that walks you through exactly how to use Immersive Reader. Now, the other place we just launched Immersive Reader is in the browser. So here I am on a Wikipedia page, and I've got the Edge browser. It's the free Edge browser that just came out a couple of months ago. Works on Windows 10 or Mac and iPad. In this case, I've got a web page up, Wikipedia, and I can just right-click. Maybe I'll go right-click right here. and say, read loud from here. And what it does, it gets
The Colosseum could hold an estimated 50,000 to 80,000 spectators at various points of its history.
Highlights the word and line just like before, and I can read aloud on any web page. I can change the voice speed, go faster or slower. Any web page supports reading out loud like that. Well, here's a New York Times article. See, I'm getting pop-up ads, all this stuff. What if I wanted that to go away? I can just hit Immersive Reader and it'll enter the Immersive Reader, and I get many of those same features that we talked about. So reading preferences, maybe I want line focus, maybe I want to change the background color to yellow, read aloud, I can break the words into syllables. So that is on a full article in the New York Times, and that's built right into the Edge browser. Now with the latest version of Edge that's coming out very soon, I can even select text, and I can just say, hey, here's some text here, and I'm going to right click, and then I can open that in the Immersive Reader. So all of those things are built right into the Edge browser, and that is free. It's on Windows 10 and Mac. So this is a great quote about the Immersive Reader in terms of the impact we're seeing. And this really speaks, I think, to the power of Immersive Reader and the impact on parents as well. And we'll talk to Rachel a little bit more later. The other thing I'll just touch on, we've got free Microsoft Educator Center courses on dyslexia awareness. We've had over 200,000 educators go through these courses, and they're put together. They're free for educators. They're also free for parents to go through. So anything you really want to learn about dyslexia at a high level, a lot of people don't know anything about dyslexia. And if educators want to learn, this is an hour-long course. It's free and easy to use. We've also made the Immersive Reader fully available in third-party apps. So beyond just Microsoft programs, here's an example of Canvas. The Immersive Reader is built right into Canvas, and it's in a whole bunch of different apps. So it's available way outside of Word and OneNote and Teams. It's now available in places like Buncee, Pear Deck, Nearpod, Wakelet, ThingLink, Canvas. All of these apps and more are adding the Immersive Reader to themselves. I talked about the free Edge browser, and the Immersive Reader is now built in. It's even in something called Office Lens. So that's a free iOS app that I can use, take a picture of a book, and I say send to Immersive Reader. And it runs optical character recognition, and immediately that picture of a book is right there inside of the Immersive Reader. So now I can run all those same nouns, syllables, read aloud. I can even take the picture from that book and translate it to another language. And here I'm going to do Spanish. So that picture of a book that I took with my iPhone or iPad can now read aloud Spanish.
Jamones. Y aunque su papá gritaba y gritaba.
So really powerful, and that's free, fully downloadable today. And lastly, Immersive Reader is part of Microsoft Forms, which is great because now if I have students that have comprehension questions or passages they want to read out loud, they're working from home, they're not at school, they might not have the parent educator to help read these questions out loud. This is now built right into Microsoft Forms. And lastly, I'm not going to talk much about this, but we've got some great sites that have full PD, all the information, research, full in-depth demos. Everything about the Immersive Reader is on this one Microsoft Educator Center page. This link is also in the deck. Now we're going to move to writing, Dictation and Editor. So this is a quote from a school for dyslexia we worked with about how the pupils without exception hate writing and how learning tools transformed writing. We actually have a screenshot. This was given, Rachel Berger I'm going to talk to, and she gave us permission. This is from her 7th grade son, Trig, who's severely dyslexic and dysgraphic. And this is sort of pre-dictation or speech to text. This is using word dictation, and you can really see the transformational difference in what he's writing. All the ideas are there. Dictation just makes it easier to get out onto the page, and maybe Rachel can tell us a little bit more about that. Now, in terms of what I'll show here, I'm going to go and briefly show we have Word again, the free version of Word, and if you're on the Home tab, there's the Dictate button right there in Word, and I can use speech to text in Word. It's in PowerPoint, it's in OneNote, it's in Outlook. So whether you're in the web or in desktop, we've got built-in speech to text across a bunch of our apps now to make it really easy. We like to say built-in, mainstream, non-stigmatizing, and free. If I click on Editor, which is also in the Home tab, this is like next generation spell checking. So this is also in the web. And you can see here, it has a bunch of things that's automatically checking for me. I've got 7 spelling errors, so it walks me through my different spelling errors. I can, correct these and go to the next one and walk around, and you can see it's pulling out different spelling errors, and I can go and choose the one that I want to fix. Does the same thing for grammar errors, but we've also got new things like clarity and conciseness. Instead of I did nothing, I did not see anything. Or maybe formality. Maybe I'm saying things like go bananas and I should say go wild. Or inclusive language. Maybe I'm saying stewardesses and I might want to say flight attendants. Or sensitive geopolitical references. So all of these things help improve writing and make it more inclusive. But these are now available for everyone. And so both Dictation and Editor are built right into Word now. And these are available and they're free. And a great quote for people who've been using Dictation and Editor. I have a student who was writing only 3 to 4 sentences before I learned about these tools. He's now writing 2.5 pages independently with Editor and Dictation. This is changing lives. So pretty powerful for being built in and inclusive. And these can be used at home, remotely, over distance learning, all of the above. Moving right along, we're going to do inclusive math next. And a lot of times with math, it doesn't get much attention because it's really difficult to do with a keyboard. It's also can be very expensive. So math is a tricky one, especially when you're remote and you only have the computer or paper at home. What can we do for students who have math challenges? So I'm going to switch back to a demo here. I've got my good friend OneNote, good friend of mine. These tools are built into OneNote for Windows 10. They're also built into the free OneNote for web, and many of them are coming to iPad soon, but they're already there for Windows 10 and the web. And here's an equation: 5x squared plus 3x minus 7 equals 0. I'll go to the insert menu. I'm going to hit math. And what you'll see is it turns that ink right into an equation. And I'm going to select an action. I'll say graph both sides in 2D. And you can see here I've got actually a little graph that's interactive. I can insert that onto the page if I want. I can move it around. I can also drop this and say solve the equation. So helping me solve independently at home. Maybe my parents don't speak the native language and it's tricky for them to help me with math. Or maybe mom and dad can't remember that math anymore because it's been a long time. So I'll say show steps for completing the square, and you'll see it works out all of the equation right here. Now, if I'm experiencing dyslexia, visual crowding, maybe some dyscalculia, I want to get this brought up bigger. Maybe I have vision impairments. Maybe I'm an English language learner. There's an Immersive Reader button right here. And when I launch that, it will take the entire set of content and equations right here into the Immersive Reader. So all those things that we were doing before are now accessible right here in the browser, or sorry, right here in the Immersive Reader. It's being a little bit pokey here. Might be that we're having some internet challenges. You know, the internet these days is having all sorts of fun with so many people doing Netflix and YouTube. Looks like internet is having some issues right here on my machine. But what that does is it takes the full thing right up there into the Immersive Reader in the browser. And so the other thing you can do that I'm not going to show the full demo of, but I'll just show briefly. If I select the same equation in the insert menu and I hit math, what happens is I can say solve for X and I can say generate a practice quiz. And if I click this, it's going to let me choose how many questions do you want, and it'll generate a quiz for me. And it'll take all those same equations that I might have 5x squared plus 3x minus 7, and it will take a Microsoft form and embed that right onto the page. And so it looks at that equation and generates a set of new problems, solve for X, and they're similar but different than the equations that were originally there. So I can now generate my own math quiz and practice on my own. So I can select these, and so I'm generating our practice quiz at home. Mom and dad can't help, and I'm studying for a quiz, and I can submit this. And because it's a Microsoft form, I can get the results myself, and it'll tell me, oh, look, I guessed them all wrong, but it'll show me what the right answer is, and I can put those back into the math tool and practice myself. So a very quick tour of the math work that's built right into OneNote. That's free and available. And again, there's a full interactive guide, so anything I just saw can be practiced with those interactive guides. The last thing I'm going to show is student and parent communication. And I'm going to take a chance. We'll see how the internet is. I'm going to turn on live captions as I'm going. And PowerPoint has captions built in. And you can see here it's captioning across the top in Spanish. And as I'm going here, you can see that Spanish is coming right out. The technology behind the scenes that's being used is coming from Microsoft Translator. This is a free app for your iPhone or Android or the web, and Translator takes any communication coming in and translates in real time to multiple languages going out. So in this case, there's a student who's deaf and hard of hearing who is getting captions. You can also set your phone so anyone can join with a join code or a QR code. So imagine you're trying to communicate with a student or a parent remotely and they don't understand, let's say, English. They can join with their phone and connect and choose to see the language they want. Well, what does that look like? This is an administrator who's talking in English and all these parents have their phones connected through a join code or a QR code that that administrator sent to them. So if I was doing a remote parent-teacher conference, this is how the person who speaks Chinese would see it on their device. And when they talk back to me, it comes back to me in English. So that's how a parent-teacher conference can happen when the parent doesn't speak the native language. And so this entire scenario can happen remotely as well as in person. So for distance learning, this is an incredibly powerful way to engage parents. As an example, in New York City, they canceled all parent-teacher conferences in person. They're doing them all over the phone. And if you can't speak the native language, that's going to be incredibly difficult. So Translator and these technologies like real-time captioning and PowerPoint is also built right in, and that's available for free today. And we have PD and tools and tricks and tips to show you exactly how to do it, as well as that interactive training that I talked about. So this is all on the deck. We have PD videos, interactive training on how to do Translator with parents, how to do parent-teacher conferences remotely, and all the above. So to wrap up, and we'll get to our interview with Rachel, we have these interactive guides. Everything I showed you right now is documented in an interactive way that anyone can use: reading, writing, math, and communication. It's all freely available. Share these broadly. And finally, to wrap up, no one should have to ask for access. It should just be there. We like to say it's built in, mainstream, non-stigmatizing, and free, and it's available for remote and distance learning right now. And with that, that's the final. We're not going to go through all the resources, but there are more resources in this PowerPoint. We are now going to wrap this part up and transition over to Rachel Berger, who is part of my team at Microsoft, but also has some other roles that she's going to be talking about. I'm going to let our producer Maryline switch over to Rachel's video now. I'm going to stop presenting, and I'm going to be asking Rachel some questions. And so, Rachel, thanks for joining.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me.
So we'll start out. Why don't you tell the audience, just tell us about your background and experience sort of outside of Microsoft, where you and I work together. Tell us a little bit about outside of Microsoft and your background and role and history.
Sure. So outside of Microsoft, I am also the executive director for a Minneapolis-based nonprofit called Decoding Dyslexia Minnesota. And we are a nonprofit that's focused on students with learning disabilities. I also, in that role, have partnered with our Department of Education to put out guidance on dyslexia specifically and create a dyslexia handbook. I'm an advocate and consultant with schools, specifically in the area of assistive technology and accommodations for students who learn differently. And then last but not least, I am the mother of 3 boys, and 2 of which have their fair share of learning differences. So they're just a little bit about me.
Well, thanks. Now, so as the world is shifting temporarily to remote or distance learning, both as a parent as well as the president of, or executive director of Decoding Dyslexia, what are your top concerns for students with disabilities?
So I think just given the current situation, everybody's feeling very uneasy. Myself as a parent, but then also myself as a leader of a nonprofit that works with kids. The top things that come to mind really are accessing content and enabling students to be able to demonstrate their knowledge, having students be able to participate in classroom activities and engage in that content, Many students with learning disabilities don't have an aide, whether that's a para or a special education teacher, with them in the home. So that's going to make things a little bit difficult to navigate. And so I kind of worry about the home support for students who learn differently. I'm not as much worried about the assistive tech because I know we've got that covered. But I know that when students learn differently, have to learn something that's new and seems like a challenge to them, that can create anxiety and depression and all sorts of uneasy feelings. And so I kind of think about those things. Then again, on a positive note, I want to say there are some positives to this. We're going to have shorter days. And shorter days for the kids that I work with mean less time processing so much content. And they won't have to filter out all of the noise of the classroom and all of those other things. So they can kind of really get down to focusing. So there's one positive piece too. I think it's always good to think of some of that too.
Yeah, that's a great point. Actually, I hadn't thought about that, but it's true. Like I've seen it with my own daughter. The days are definitely shorter. Yeah,
they are. I mean, just for instance, my son, who's writing, you were showing, and we do a lot of his things so that at the end of the day, he can ear read his content, because by the end of the school day, any homework he's coming home with that he has to do more reading on, he's just done. His brain is done processing information. So we've kind of removed that roadblock and enable him to ear read versus sight read. And so right now we're just, I look at that and I'm like, his days are going to be shorter. He's probably going to have the ability to sustain much longer.
Yeah. So, myself working with you a lot on this, and you've had other roles in the past, you work a lot with schools and educators all across the United States on these topics. So how can technology help students who have to learn from home? For students with learning differences, where can technology help them most in your mind?
So I think about, well, first of all, one of the things that I really like about this current situation, again, I'm trying to find the positives, because we all know we're put into a situation that we didn't ask for. We kind of don't know when it's going to go back to normal. But I think about the fact that our technology is non-stigmatizing when you're using it in a home environment. You don't know when someone else is using dictation because they have to, or when they're using text to speech. So that non-stigmatizing piece is really awesome. Other ways that technology can help students is it really gives each user the ability to personalize their learning experience in a way that works best for them. And it can help students, by doing that, it can help students gain in their independence. It can also help them more effectively demonstrate subject matter knowledge, because they have a variety of mediums to use. And, by one of the studies, Mike, that you and I know about with the British Dyslexia Association and the Knoll Hill School, assistive technology is shown to help students who learn differently to engage in ways that wasn't previously possible. So again, going kind of back to some of the tools that we're familiar with, I think it's just the support that we have, the ability to help students with is just amazing.
Yeah, I think the point about non-stigmatizing is a really good one. Me, my mantra is built-in, mainstream, non-stigmatizing, and free.
Yep.
And yeah, when you're at home, what was the famous on the internet? No one knows you're a dog. Yeah, at home, no one knows what you're using for software. No one cares, honestly.
Right.
So
right.
I think that's a great point. That's a benefit of this, is where students might get used to and really comfortable with the technology at home. So when they go back to school, they don't have to ask the teacher, how do I do X or Y with the technology? So I think that's a great point.
Mm-hmm.
So here's another question for you. And you got a lot of experience. How can parents engage and help in this process? These parents who might have students who are at home now.
Yeah, so the parents can learn about the technology and the tools offered to students' specific learning needs, and expose their students to the technology so that their kids have the opportunity to learn what works best for them. Again, kind of enabling them to personalize their experience. And so really, parents are big players in this right now. The more they can do to learn what's out there and expose their kids, the better experience it's going to be for everyone navigating this right now. And I also see that having parents as a support and as someone that's involved in this piece, it also helps the educators, especially like I'm thinking about two of my sons. and their personal learning plans. And so it really helps their educator and myself come together as a team in this instance. I'm like, how are we going to meet students' needs? And so that kind of enabling us to circle around the child and support those needs. The parents definitely have a place here.
Now, in terms of, I mean, this is, I think, a little slightly related off topic, but you were involved in the creation of this. And unfortunately, right now, a lot of Microsoft stores are closed in the United States. It's temporary, but talk about some of the Microsoft store events and literacy trainings with families and parents that you helped spearhead that movement. So maybe talk about that a little bit.
Right. That is something that, you know, once we get back to doing things in the way that that we're used to, and not having to social distance, our Microsoft stores, of which there are 80 across the nation, are just a wealth of information and resource at your fingertips. And they offer different workshops for the community. And so I spearheaded these community workshops based on the learning tools Microsoft has created for students, really of all abilities, but focused on helping students with dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia. And so what's really great is you don't have to wait for your store to host one of those events. You could simply call the store or send them an email, and you're looking for the CDS, which is Community Development Specialist, and you just ask them, hey, could you host a learning tools workshop? And you can invite a bunch of friends, or they can just schedule it themselves and they'll invite educators. But that's a great way to have a hands-on workshop. The other thing that's offered is I myself and Mike, we've got a lot of great webinars, as Mike showed in his slides. We are available to do those types of learning opportunities as well.
So getting wrapped up here, do you have any final advice for schools or parents who are trying to figure out accessibility and remote learning in a really fast time frame? A lot of people are scrambling. What advice do you have? And if there's any resources, we can put them in the deck, but are there some top resources and advice that you might recommend for people?
Right. So again, it's a super overwhelming time for everyone. We're in a place where we're not very comfortable, right? And we're, you know, uncharted territory. So I think the thing that top of mind for me is, please, let's all give each other grace. Let's give our educators grace. Let's give our parents grace. Let's please give our students grace. Nobody's comfortable right now with kind of where we're at. But think about the fact that we are a community here. Microsoft, educators, parents, students, we're a community surrounding children and their learning needs. And so we've got a lot to offer, and we can support one another in that way, and we can learn and grow together. But this is going to be a time where experiential learning comes into place, and we need to support one another, and then we need to look for our resources. And some really quick how-tos or something that I would like to tell the audience that they could take away today would be I'm sure you have it, Mike, the All About the Immersive Reader landing page we have, because that just talks all about the Immersive Reader and provides a ton of links. The other thing that I think about is the Microsoft educator community and all of the videos that are available within the educator community for individuals to access and take at their own pace. And then lastly, if I was giving parents or educators something that they could walk away with checking out today, in addition to Immersive Reader, I would say try out Office Lens. It's quick and it's easy and it's very accessible and user-friendly.
That's great. Well, Rachel, thank you for joining us today. And I'm going to retake the screen here in just a second, just for the wrap up. But
thanks for having me.
Yeah, I think a lot of great content and thoughts for people to think about in the world of accessibility and remote learning together. So just to recap of our initial key resources, the Microsoft ED Remote Learning Site, the Teams Education Quick Start Guide, and then be sure to sign up for our remote learning community team. And we also have a couple of other things, just our show notes. They'll be posted probably in 15-20 minutes from now. So the full PowerPoint deck with all the links and resources and content, fully public and available at this link here. We're also going to be having this video posted to our YouTube playlist, probably up by tomorrow morning. So you can go watch any of our videos right there. And then always a reminder, if you need support or your teachers are having issues with any Microsoft Education software, our link right here will take you to a place where you can file a support ticket that will be tracked, and we'll follow up on that. And then lastly, more webinars. So tomorrow, we've got actually my manager, Michelle Freed, who's heading up the entire Microsoft Education sort of COVID response remote learning effort. Michelle's going to be interviewed by me on this show, so that will be very interesting. We've also got Jonathan Briggs from the local East Side Preparatory School. They were one of the very first schools in the nation to flip to online learning many weeks ago at this point. So we're going to hear, how's it going? What have you learned? What were the challenges? And then on Monday, we've got Manny Sandhu from the Teams group and also David Olinger from O'Day High School. They're going to be talking about how to set up Teams and how he helped move their entire school's online conference platform to Teams in like a week. It was pretty crazy, and he did an amazing job. And then Tuesday, March 31st, we've got Shay Harris from the Engagement Program talking about all the work they're doing with schools, as well as Magnus Santorv, who's helped one of the largest scale Teams deployments maybe in the world. He's done some amazing things out in Norway, so he'll be joining us pretty late Western European time. And with that, thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.